The bread smelled perfect. Golden crust, soft center, exactly the way the Germans liked it. They never suspected the baker. Every morning, Wehrmacht boots echoed through the street, and every morning they lined up outside his shop, rifles slung, helmets low, laughing, confident, hungry. They trusted the man who fed them. That trust would kill them. This is the story of a baker who did not carry a gun, did not wear a uniform, and did not shout slogans in the street. He worked before dawn. He measured flour by hand, and when the time came, he chose exactly who would die. Only Nazis. The town had learned to stay quiet. After the occupation, silence became a survival skill. Windows closed early, radios whispered, conversations ended when boots approached. Posters went up overnight, written in a language that did not belong to the people who lived there. The Germans took the school, then the town hall, then the homes. But they never took the bakery. The bakery was too useful. Bread was not a luxury, it was control. Armies marched on food, and occupation survived on routine. The German command wanted fresh loaves delivered every morning, same time, same quantity, same quality. And the baker delivered. His name rarely appeared in records. He was not famous, not then, not now. Just another man with flour on his hands and a tired face that gave nothing away. Before the war, his life was simple. He inherited the shop from his father, who inherited it from his own. Same brick oven, same cracked tiles, same wooden counter smoothed by decades of coins and knuckles. He knew the town by appetite, who liked rye, who wanted white, who complained when crusts were too dark. He also knew who disappeared. First it was the teacher, then the butcher, then a family down the street, gone overnight, door hanging open like a mouth that never finished screaming. The Germans called it relocation. The baker knew better. He watched uniforms replace faces he recognized. He watched trucks roll in after curfew. He watched smoke rise where there should have been chimneys. And every morning he baked. Because refusing meant death. Because resisting meant worse. So he waited. The first soldiers treated him like furniture, something that existed to be used. They slapped the counter. They complained about portions. They joked in front of him as if he were deaf. One of them liked to lean over the counter and say, "Good bread today," in broken local language, and laugh when the baker did not smile. The baker always nodded. He learned their routines, who came early, who came late, who took loaves back to barracks, who ate on the street. He noticed patterns others missed because others were too afraid to look. Then, one morning, the Germans brought a new order, a standing contract, daily delivery to the garrison, larger quantities, special rations for officers, priority access to flour seized from surrounding villages. The bakery was no longer just a shop. It was part of the occupation machine. The baker signed the paper with a steady hand. That night, he did not sleep. He sat in the back room, surrounded by sacks of flour and the old tools his father used. He thought about what bread really was, not comfort, not tradition, a delivery system. The idea did not come all at once. It arrived slowly, like heat building in an oven. At first, it was just a thought he refused to finish. Then it became a question. Then a calculation. Poison was not impossible to get, not for a man who handled food, not in a town full of rats, insects, and shortages. Every farm had chemicals, every warehouse had supplies meant to kill something. The risk was not the poison. The risk was precision. If civilians ate it, he would be a murderer. If children touched it,
He would be worse than the men in uniform. If he made a mistake, the Germans would burn the town and call it justice. So he planned. He separated batches, different markings, different shapes. He altered recipes just enough that he could tell them apart in the dark. A longer score on the crust, a slightly different weight. Nazi bread, civilian bread. He memorized which trays went where. He trained his hands to know the difference without looking. Then came the hardest part, waiting for the right moment. Because poison does not forgive panic. The first attempt had to work. If even one soldier survived long enough to suspect, the baker would not live to see another sunrise. Weeks passed, then months. The Germans grew comfortable, too comfortable. They joked with him, called him reliable. One officer told him he should be proud to serve the Reich with his skill. The baker smiled thinly and said nothing. Behind the shop, in a locked cabinet, he kept a small container wrapped in cloth. He handled it like a relic. He measured it with care so obsessive it bordered on prayer. Every night he rehearsed the steps. Every morning he baked as usual. Until one day, everything aligned. A large delivery, a visiting unit, extra mouths, extra hunger. More German bread than ever before. The baker awoke before dawn and began. He mixed the civilian dough first, clean hands, clean tools. He finished it, sealed it, and moved it away. Then he washed. Then he began the second batch. His hands did not shake. The poison dissolved into the mixture, invisible, tasteless once baked. He folded it in slowly, evenly, as if he were kneading courage into the dough itself. He marked the loaves carefully. He baked them thoroughly. When the oven opened, the smell was the same, perfect. The soldiers arrived on time. They joked, they complained, they stacked loaves into crates and paid with occupation currency, worth nothing. One of them tore off a piece and ate it on the spot. The baker watched him chew. Nothing happened. The crate was loaded onto a truck and driven away. The baker closed the shop and waited. Hours passed. Then a scream echoed down the street. Then another. Then boots, running this time, not marching. The baker stayed inside. By evening, rumors spread faster than orders. Soldiers collapsing, vomiting, seizing, medics overwhelmed, barracks locked down. The official word was food poisoning. The unofficial word was sabotage. The Germans stormed the bakery that night. They tore it apart, smashed tools, cut open sacks of flour, dragged the baker into the street and beat him until he could barely stand. He said nothing. They found nothing, because the poison was gone, used, cleaned, finished. The baker was released, bloodied, warned that next time there would be no questions. That night he should have stopped. Anyone else would have. But he had crossed the line already, and the line, once crossed, does not move back. He learned from the first attempt, adjusted quantities, adjusted timing. He learned which units ate immediately and which stored bread for later. He poisoned again and again. Not every day, not every week, only when conditions were perfect, only when he was sure. The Germans grew feared the bakery, though they never admitted it aloud. Officers ordered bread tested. Lower ranks were forced to eat first. The baker watched them hesitate at the counter now. That hesitation was his victory. But fear sharpens cruelty. The reprisals came, random arrests, curfews, executions justified by the word unknown.
The Germans did not stop eating the bread. They could not. Routine is stronger than fear, and hunger always wins. Orders changed, protocols tightened, but every morning trucks still came, crates were still loaded, loaves still disappeared behind canvas flaps and rifle barrels. The bakery remained open, and that was the baker's advantage. He became more careful, slower, more selective. He learned that chaos drew attention, but consistency dissolved suspicion. So he let weeks pass between attempts, long enough for memory to dull, long enough for command reports to blame spoiled supplies, weak stomachs, foreign bacteria, long enough for officers to relax. The baker understood something the occupiers did not. War is not won by fury, it is won by patience. The climax did not arrive with a single dramatic act. It arrived as a convergence, pressure building from every direction until something had to break. A new commander took charge of the garrison, younger, sharper, less complacent. He distrusted the town, the people, and especially the baker whose shop had become the quiet center of too many unexplained deaths. The orders changed overnight. All bread deliveries would now be supervised, baking schedules monitored, samples taken. The baker would be watched. The window was closing. The baker understood immediately. He did not panic. Panic makes mistakes. Instead, he prepared for one final act, not of revenge, but of impact. If this was to end, it would end decisively. The Germans announced a ceremony, a visit from high-ranking officers passing through the region, a show of control, a reminder of who ruled the streets. The bakery received its largest order yet: special loaves, white flour, fine texture, reserved exclusively for officers and their guests. The baker read the requisition twice, then folded it carefully and placed it under the counter. This was it. He slept for less than an hour that night. Before dawn, he worked with a precision that bordered on ritual. Civilian bread first, exactly as always. He delivered it personally to neighbors, to families who trusted him without knowing why. Then he locked the front door. The officer's bread came last. He used a higher concentration than ever before, enough to ensure there would be no slow recoveries, no survivors to testify, no lingering doubts. His hands were steady, not because he felt nothing, but because he had already accepted the outcome. By sunrise, the loaves were finished. The officers arrived in polished boots and clean uniforms. They spoke loudly. They laughed. They treated the town like a stage built for their comfort. They praised the bread before they even tasted it. The baker did not watch them eat. He closed the shop and went home. By midday, the ceremony was over. By afternoon, the town heard sirens. By evening, the garrison was sealed. What happened inside was never fully recorded. Too many witnesses died. Too many reports contradicted each other. But the results were undeniable. Multiple officers dead, several more dying, command structure shattered in a single afternoon. The Germans did not look for a cause this time. They looked for a culprit. The bakery was surrounded before dawn the next day. The baker did not resist. He knew this moment would come eventually. He had planned for it, just not the exact day. They dragged him out in front of the town, soldiers with rifles, officers with fury in their eyes. An interpreter demanded answers, names, confessions. The baker said nothing. Silence was his final weapon. They beat him again, harder this time. They promised death, promised pain beyond imagination. He still said nothing. Because confession would not save the town, it would only justify destroying it. The Germans faced a problem. They had no proof, no poison, no witnesses, no confession. Executing him without evidence would confirm what they feared most, that one man, unarmed, had crippled them from behind a counter. So they did something worse. They closed the bakery. They seized the building, burned the oven, took away the tools. They banned the baker from working anywhere near food. They let him live. To them, that was mercy. To the baker, it was exile. The bread trucks stopped coming. German rations were brought in from elsewhere, inferior, stale, unfamiliar. Morale dropped. Complaints rose. The garrison never fully recovered its rhythm, and the town noticed. The occupation did not end that day, but something changed. The Germans were no longer comfortable. They were cautious, edges sharp, nerves exposed. Fear had changed sides. The baker lived quietly after that. He took odd jobs, repaired tools, helped rebuild what had been broken during searches and raids. He kept his head down. He never spoke of what he had done, not to his neighbors, not to his family, not even to himself. When liberation finally came, it did not arrive with celebration in his heart. He watched the Germans retreat with the same expression he had worn when they arrived: empty. After the war, people searched for heroes. They wanted uniforms, medals, names carved into stone. The baker did not fit. There were no official records linking him to the deaths, no trial, no testimony, just whispers, stories told late at night, hints passed between generations, about a time when Nazis feared their own bread. Some said the story was exaggerated. Others said it was impossible, too clean, too perfect. But a few remembered. They remembered the sudden sickness, the locked barracks, the officers who never returned. They remembered the bakery that closed without explanation. The baker never sought recognition. He never defended himself against rumors. He lived the rest of his life in obscurity, carrying a weight no medal could balance. He had killed men. He had saved others. Both truths lived inside him, unresolved. When he died, there was no headline, no speech, just a quiet burial, and a town that felt, briefly, like it had lost something important without knowing why. Years later, historians would argue about resistance, about ethics, about whether poisoning was war or murder. The baker never answered those questions. He had acted when others could not. He used what he had: an oven, flour, time. He did not fight on battlefields. He fought in routines, in trust, in the quiet moments where power assumes safety. That is his legacy. Not a body count, not a symbol, a reminder that evil often relies on ordinary systems to survive, and sometimes resistance looks like doing your job perfectly until the moment you choose not to. The bread smelled perfect, and that was the most dangerous thing of all.